We always search for massively high happiness peaks, and we think that if we can just reach that peak, we'll stay there. We never have to come down.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 38, and today we are talking about one of my favorite books that I've read recently, and it's a little insight into why and how we tend to self-sabotage when it comes to our business. Court and I were talking about this. I've read this book. She hasn't yet read it, but I'm going to make her read it because she's going to love it. The book is called Go Big Now. It's by Julia Pimsleur. She wrote another book called $1 Million Woman. Read both of them. Both of them are phenomenal books to read. Even if you aren't in the same industry, even if you aren't in the kind of industry where you would scale your business with angel investors, as some of the things that she talks about, even if you're not in that role yet, these were just such eye-opening books that really are centered on women helping you guys grow your businesses. They're just wonderful. So in this specific book, she breaks down 8 essential mindset practices to overcome any obstacle and reach your goals. Sounds amazing, right? So definitely something that I recommend. And I know it's something that I'm going to need to read again and again because the practices in this book aren't easy to implement. It's such a mindset in general is such a hard thing to get a grasp on and to feel good about. So it's definitely something that takes a lot of practice. So what we're going to talk about today is something that resonated really well with us because this happens to us in our own business all the time, especially when we start to set big goals and have really big changes, like some of the changes that are approaching for our business right now. So in this book, she talks about how sometimes when we set these really big goals and we start to take action against them, that all of a sudden things seem to go wrong. There seems to be some sort of external factor out there that's unrelated to your goal, but it kind of ends up being a form of self-sabotage and you don't even realize it.
So we're going to take you through a few of examples of what these might be. One of them is repeatedly getting sick for no reason. The other is feeling sad or down even though you are absolutely crushing it. The third, not doing something that would be great because you think that it might lead to too much joy, thinking surely something bad has to happen if this many good things are happening to me right now in a row. And the last one is acting like a martyr instead of taking care of your needs. So this last one I can relate to, and so can Abby. We both recently had things that happened where we were just like, oh my gosh, no, I'll just figure it out. Like, I'll do more work or I'll take more on. I'm not going to bother somebody else to try to help me out. And my example was COVID. I went to Iceland with my husband. We came back. We both got COVID. And so here I am already a week out of work, and Abby was taking all the workload and holding the business together. And I get back and I am sick for another week after that. And she asked me, she's like, so do you want to move around some of these deliverables? And I think my text to her actually verbatim was just like, oh, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be an inconvenience to our customers or our clients. I don't want anything to suffer in the business. I'm just going to suck it up and feel like crap and do all of this work, even though I had absolutely no passion, I was just so tired on the couch, no energy. But I didn't want to inconvenience anybody else, and I didn't want to ask for help. So I just said, no, I'll do it. And I'm sure all of our clients would have been like, oh my gosh, you poor thing. Been there, done that. Like, next week is fine. But instead of doing that, I just decided to take on all of that work and not ask for help.
And when these big goals happen too, like even right now, Court and I are planning to launch a brand new sales page for our new 2023 mastermind. And that's what we're working on day in and day out. And I got an email this morning telling me that preschool was canceled for the week. So it was one of those moments where I was like, huh, okay, well, I guess maybe I have to push the mastermind to the back burner for this week, but I'll bring it back next week. And it's a perfect example of self-sabotage because you instantly in your head take that big goal that you're scared and nervous about and you push it on the back burner because something else seemingly unrelated came up. And sometimes this stuff does happen and it's out of our control, but it doesn't mean that we can't still find ways not to self-sabotage and find ways still to reach that big scary goal. And that's one of the things that she talks about. And I think even another good example too of something, because you're probably thinking, well, you can't control getting sick, which I think is partially true, but have you ever been preparing for a big meeting or you have something on your calendar that's coming up and you end up getting so anxious, you almost like worry yourself sick is like a thing that people say a lot. And we don't think about that as being a form of self-sabotage. We think about it as like anxiety or worrisome or something in that effect. But these are all kind of warning signs of what self-sabotage might be when you are getting to that next level.
It's absolutely a mental game. It's crazy how even just your mindset can change everything. Like Abby said, you worry yourself sick. So it's probably, you probably ended up getting a little sick and it's maybe not as drastic as you thought, but you might be overreacting a little bit like, oh my gosh, well now I'm sick and I have this presentation, and it could be a lot of what's going on in your mind versus what's actually going on in your body physically. So I think it's one of those things where we can kind of talk ourselves into these moments of feeling like this and creating that self-sabotage, and instead switching that mindset. So how do we take that mindset and really flip it on its side and make it more positive so that we can continue to go after these goals versus letting things like this get in our way?
Absolutely. So another thing that she kind of talks about too is that we all have something called this baseline happiness. So we always search for these massively high happiness peaks. And we think that if we can just reach that peak, we'll stay there. We never have to come down. So when I win the lottery, when I start making millions of dollars, when I get an appearance on the Today Show, I know for us, one of our big things, which this is a little spoiler alert, but one of our big things that we said at the beginning was when we get featured on the Gold Digger podcast,
we will have made it.
We will have made it,
Yep.
for sure. And secret and big, what do they call those things? Like a twist. What do they call
Plot
it?
twist?
Not a plot twist.
Drum roll?
No, like when you're spoiler alert. That we recorded an episode with Jenna like a month, 2 months ago, maybe now.
Mm-hmm.
P.S. I did get sick right before it. Another probably form of self-sabotage. And it's going to go live very soon. Probably in like a week or two, I think, from when this podcast episode airs. And that was just a moment where we were so excited and we had this massive peak from our baseline happiness. But really what ends up happening is you have this initial high, this initial peak, and then you come back to baseline. So you have this kind of baseline happiness, and when you are going to attain these higher levels of success, you oftentimes don't let yourself live there. We don't let ourselves stay at that high peak because we instantly start to question everything. So we instantly start to think, oh no, I can't stay at that peak because I'm not good enough yet. Or maybe I didn't do the best recording episode on the podcast that I should have. Or what if people think we're really dumb? Like we just think through all of these things that second guess that peak moment rather than just taking the time to celebrate it.
Or being in your head and thinking, okay, I've made this peak, so now people might think that I'm like super legit, which we are. You are super legit and you should be excited and celebrate that moment. But don't let it get to a point where you're like, I hit this peak now, they're going to expect me to hit this next peak. And then just get in your head and get really flustered and scared for what that next peak is, because your peak, it might be different from somebody else's peak. It should be. And it doesn't mean that because we landed an episode with Jenna doesn't mean that like, oh my gosh, now we have to be on some some like TV show. Like that's the next big thing. People have to see our face and we have to be talking to them through their television screen. That's not what we're trying to achieve here. We hit a peak and we hit it a lot sooner than we thought we would. And we got really excited and we did celebrate via text message, which I think that's always, no, that's a lie. Yeah. We grabbed some mimosas and some lunch after we got off of the recording with her. And I think I was just like, Abby, we must do this. We have to celebrate this. So it's really, it's living in that celebration a little bit longer, because I think we get to the point where we celebrate it for a day or a minute. And then we're like, okay, well, now what do we have to do? Like, do we have to hit that next peak? Or, oh my gosh, did we sound stupid in that episode? Or did we say something awful and people are not going to like us? And we just get in our heads, and it's all going back to that self-sabotage and bringing ourselves kind of back down.
Absolutely. You are worthy to stay in that peak. Like, we don't need to bring ourselves back down. You can live there. And I think that's the first part of it. So she breaks down a lot of different ways that we can stop self-sabotaging ourselves, because you might be, as you're listening to this episode, you might be thinking, yep, I did this here, or wow, I did this here, and I didn't even think about it in this way. You might be thinking about all of these moments in hindsight of where this happened to you, and it's still going to happen to you. We're still all going to self-sabotage ourselves moving forward in the future as we grow our businesses without even realizing it. So what can we do to stop it? So the very first thing is recognizing it. You need to recognize in the moment that you're self-sabotaging. You need to say, I'm not letting myself enjoy this moment in this celebration of being on the Goal Digger podcast, and oh my gosh, this is so amazing, and let's just live in this moment and live in this happiness. And anytime a thought comes in our head, we need to be the ones to shut it down. We need to write it on a piece of paper, throw it away, say the opposite. We need to shut it down right away. We then need to make that conscious choice to ignore the message, push forward anyways. And finally, I think really it's just talking about this. So Court and I are kind of lucky because we have each other.
Very lucky. Yeah, I think that was just something that kind of popped into my head, is that we're really lucky to have each other. You know, there could be a day where I am just totally self-sabotaging us or our business or what we're doing, and Abby is going to play the opposite role and be like, no, girlfriend, we got this. Go write this affirmation down, say it out loud 3 times in front of the mirror, and get back to work. And so I think we're very grateful to have each other. But if you don't have a business partner, and let's say your significant other is a little bit too close to your business and everything that you're doing, talk to a friend or a therapist or a coach. Go grab a coffee, go grab a drink, get out of your work zone and really just sit down and talk with them through this, and just ask them, can you help me? What do I sound ridiculous right now? Bring me back in. Help me to get out of this hole. And I guarantee you that they'll be there for you, and they'll give you beneficial things to move forward to keep doing, because that's what friends are there for. Therapists, coaches, they're all there to help you get through those self-sabotaging moments.
Absolutely. I can list off 5 people right now that I would Instagram message and just ask them for help with if I was struggling with something. And I'm sure you can too. So that is something that you definitely need to be doing, is asking for help and identifying these moments. And sometimes it's as simple as explaining that big goal, the big thing that you're going towards, and asking people to hold you accountable. Saying when you want to launch it and having people check in on you can be really big in making sure that you stick to those goals, and that even when you don't notice that you're self-sabotaging yourself, you can kind of go and course correct. So this book is so good. This was literally one page in the book that we just felt like resonated so much with what happens in our own business. And we knew that it would probably resonate with a lot of people. But she breaks down all these different mindsets of how to take it to the next level, how to avoid self-sabotaging yourself, and so much more. So highly recommend. We will go ahead and link it out in the podcast show notes for you so that you can grab it next time you are online.
If you liked this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.